In a tranquil village nestled at the foot of the mist-covered mountains of ancient China, there lived a spirited and graceful young maiden named Hua Mulan, whose heart was as vast as the open plains. She was never one to find joy in the quiet, restrictive art of embroidery, preferring instead to spend her golden afternoons mastering the swift arc of an arrow and the disciplined, powerful rhythm of martial arts. One fateful afternoon, the heavy silence of the village was shattered by the thunderous beat of imperial drums and the loud, echoing announcement of the emperor's urgent mobilization decree for all able-bodied men. The fierce invaders from the desolate northern steppes were sweeping across the Great Wall like a dark tide, and every household was commanded by law to send one strong man to join the imperial army. Mulan's father, a venerable warrior of the past with a soul full of honor, was now old and frail with trembling hands. Yet he began to polish his rusted armor because duty was his highest calling. As the pale moon rose that night, Mulan watched her father's stooped silhouette by the flickering oil lamp, and her heart tightened with a deep, suffocating sense of worry for his fragile life in the coming war. She understood with painful clarity that if her father marched to the frontier in his weakened state, the biting winds of the north and the chaotic blood of battle would ensure he never returned to his home. Driven by a desperate and bold love that outweighed her fear, Mulan made a perilous decision to disguise her true identity and take her father's place among the ranks of the emperor's grand army. With a sharp blade and a steady hand that did not waver, she quietly cut off her long, flowing black hair. Watching the dark tresses fall to the cold floor like a forgotten memory of her girlhood, she carefully donned her father's heavy iron armor, tightened the worn leather belt around her waist, and strapped the ancient family sword firmly to her side. Feeling the weight of generations on her shoulders, before the first light of dawn could touch the horizon, she led her loyal horse out of the stable and vanished into the thick morning fog without daring to whisper a final, tearful goodbye to her sleeping parents. Journeying across jagged mountain ridges and wide, lonely rivers for many days, Mulan eventually joined the endless, dusty line of weary men marching toward the grim and distant training camps of the north. She gave herself a strong male name, steeled her gaze to hide her mounting fear, and practiced speaking in a much deeper, firmer voice until it sounded like the commanding call of a true soldier. Life in the military was a relentless and grueling cycle of exhaustion, with physical training that lasted from the very first light of sunrise until the cold stars began to blink in the velvet sky late at night. Mulan forced herself to work twice as hard as any man around her, pushing her aching body to its absolute limits so that no one would ever suspect the secret she carried beneath her heavy bronze breastplate. She mastered the staggering weight of the long spear, learned to command a galloping warhorse through the chaos of noise, and shot her arrows with such incredible precision they struck the center of every bullseye. Gradually, through her quiet wisdom, her sharp intellect, and her extraordinary courage in the face of grave danger, she earned the unwavering respect and the deep trust of all her brave brothers in arms. The first great battle erupted in a desolate, narrow valley covered in waist-deep snow, where the frozen air was filled with the terrifying, savage cries of a fierce and powerful enemy attacking from the shadows. Amidst the choking black smoke and the deafening, rhythmic clashing of cold steel, Mulan was always the pioneer, a silver flash of bravery charging forward like a storm into the very heart of the enemy's line. She took command of a small, scattered division and executed a series of brilliant, sudden tactics that managed to turn the tide and push back the overwhelming waves of the savage northern invaders. As the long, weary years of war dragged on, the name of the mysterious and talented young general spread like wildfire throughout the ranks, reaching the ears of the high commanders and the emperor himself. However, during a particularly fierce and bloody encounter on the edge of a steep cliff, Mulan was seriously wounded by a stray poisoned arrow and fell into a deep, dark unconsciousness amidst the falling snow, while the camp doctors were frantically working to save her life and treating her life-threatening injuries. The long-kept secret of her true identity was finally revealed to the shocked and silent eyes of the soldiers, though the ancient military laws were incredibly strict regarding such deception. The commander and her loyal comrades could only feel a profound sense of awe for the incredible sacrifice she had made for her father. Instead of demanding the traditional punishment of death, they chose to stand loyally by her side, recognizing her as their true leader and the only one who could guide them in the final, most decisive battle. With her signature clever strategy, Mulan lured the overconfident enemy forces into a massive mountain trap, securing a resounding and historic victory that would be remembered by poets for many centuries to come. The country was finally cleared of the invaders. The golden banners of the emperor flew high once more, and a fragile, beautiful peace returned to the scorched but resiliently lush green fields of the south. The emperor himself summoned the legendary young heroine to his magnificent, gold-leafed palace in the capital, intending to grant her a high noble title and immense riches of jade and silk for her service. But Mulan politely and humbly declined all the fame, the power, and the overflowing chests of gold, kneeling before the throne and asking for only one simple thing in return for her long years of sacrifice. Your Imperial Majesty, I only wish to return to my humble village to care for my elderly father, who has been waiting in the shadows of our home for my return through every season of the war. The great emperor was deeply moved by her profound filial piety and gifted her the finest, swiftest horse in the imperial stables, along with a magnificent robe of pure silk embroidered with golden flowers. Mulan finally stripped off the heavy, blood-stained iron armor of war, put on her simple old dress from her youth, and began the long, reflective journey back across the mountains to her childhood home. The familiar wooden gate of her village finally appeared through the trees, where her father stood leaning heavily against the doorframe, his tired eyes searching the horizon with a flickering glimmer of hope. The old man could hardly believe his weary eyes when he saw his beloved daughter returning to him, no longer a soldier of the realm but a woman of unmatched strength, wisdom, and everlasting grace. The two embraced each other in the dust of the road, weeping tears of overwhelming joy and immense pride that transcended all the silent years of suffering, worry, and the heavy burden of her secret. The villagers crowded into her small, sunlit courtyard to listen in hushed and respectful silence to the extraordinary and harrowing stories of her life on the distant, frozen frontiers of the northern wilderness. Mulan had proven to the entire world that true courage knows no gender and that honor is not defined by one's outward appearance or birth, but by the fire and the strength of one's inner spirit. Her legendary story was told and retold from generation to generation, becoming a shining, eternal example of bravery, love, and the unbreakable, sacred bond between a devoted child and a loving parent. Under the fragrant, blooming branches of the mukin tree in her quiet garden, she lived a long and peaceful life, surrounded by the deep respect and the admiration of everyone who knew her remarkable story. This is the eternal legend of the girl who broke all ancient traditions to save her family and her entire nation from the brink of total ruin, leaving a legacy that will never be forgotten.